don't give up on chanting. Always find a way to chant as many rounds as you can maintain daily, remembering that that's the main reason why Prabhupada wanted us to do. He wanted us to learn to love Krishna.
With the devotee soccer team.
Yes.
It was like half devotee kids, and
Right.
people were yelling, Govinda, Krishna,
Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
cheering them on.
Right, yeah.
From Alachua, Florida, this is Nectar Talks.
In collaboration with Krishna.com.
And in service to our Bhakti community.
Today is February 20th, 2024. Ekadasi. Vamanadev's appearance day. We're at the Krishna.com studios, and we're interviewing Jaya Gauri about her life story and her devotional Krishna conscious career. So welcome. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have a lot to talk about. We did a little pre-interview this afternoon and realized that there's a lot of ground to cover, so we'll see. Jaya Gauri, maybe you can tell me a little bit about your childhood and growing up in Brazil and what that was like, and some of the early experiences that led you towards, your spiritual path.
So I was born in Rio. My father was a doctor for the Air Force, and my mother worked for the government. So in 1958, we moved to Brasilia before the inauguration of the city, because the Brazilian government wanted to shift from Rio, the capital, to Brasilia, that is centralized. It had more control for the center of the country, so it can populate. And so it was a very good childhood. I got there. I was just a little girl, just like Anna now. And so my father was the doctor for the president then, and for all the big shots from the government there, because there were nobody else. It's because the cities, the roads were still being paved, and with barrels of petroleum, of tar. And I remember coming home covered in tar from playing with the barrels, rolling the barrels with the kids in the neighborhood. It was just a few of us, but it was fun. So I grew up there. First we had a little house in the center of the city, and then we moved to an apartment, everything freshly built. And so there, we stayed there for some years, and when we were at the apartment, Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna, they are Formula One drivers. They lived in the same buildings that, the same, calls the block. Each block had like maybe 8 buildings. So they lived in a building in front. And so they were older than us. But there was that, I know, everybody in Brasilia was into driving, because the cities, the roads were so wide. They have very nice curves. So everybody was into driving. And driving was a big thing. And so those guys, they were like, all the younger kids used to look up to them. And we used to go to their shop, to the mechanical shop, to look at, we were like kids, right? Just going to the mechanical shop just to see them working in their cars. And Brasilia had 24 hours of Brasilia. It was a race that lasted 24 hours, just right in the center of the city. And so my cousin was older than me, and she was living there with us I think she lived with us for 2 years. And so her boyfriend was managing a booth for the pilots. So I was in charge of the chronometer just to see, how long this. So it was lots of fun in my childhood. We used to, as kids, ride bikes everywhere. There was no danger of strangers or no sexual predators, and it was like a very wholesome environment to grow up in. Everybody very happy. And we had the lake, had the yacht club. My father was director of the yacht club. So we used to sail, my brother and I. We used to do regattas every weekend. And so after the regattas, we used to go to our land on the lake. We used to live in the apartment and had the land. My father had built a house there, and so we were always spending the weekends just in the water and like that. And every year, my father used to rent a house on the beach for us, a beautiful beach near Rio. We see Copacabana from the front. Because all those beautiful mountains in Rio, they were all there. And called Piratininga. Really nice place. So every year we went there for a month, and all the family used to come. 'Cause my mother's family was from Rio, and my father's family from São Paulo. And my brother and I, my brother's 2 years older, and everybody was into spiritual life. My family, there was always some mystical something. My mother used to like to go to these ladies that throw the buzios. Buzios are those little shells they reed shells, and that's that. And my father was into yoga, into
He was a doctor
yoga.
and
Ramacharaka is let me see. His name is he was born in Maryland. His name is William Walker Atkinson, and he used to have a pen name. He used to write under 2 pen names, and one of them was Yogi Ramacharaka. And he was a very intelligent guy. He was studying under a yogi that was in Chicago where he lived then. And he writes so well, so clear. And so he has this book, The Shine a Light on Hatha Yoga. And he had on Hatha Yoga, on Raja Yoga. So my father had all these books.
As a doctor, he was interested, naturally curious about yoga, because he had all these upscale clients, and he's trying to help them, with
it talks
a better lifestyle.
Yeah, about health, and he gives so many tips on how to live healthy, and how to breathe, how to move your body, how to bathe. There was this thing that, for your kidneys. To help your kidneys, you need to actually scrub your skin. It's not just, like just put water and you bathe. No, you scrub your skin to help detoxify. So, details in life to make your life a little healthy. And we know that the yoga study, the yoga knowledge is very much into living life at your best in a sattvic way and more mode of goodness. And so you do things that are positive instead of, degrading or. And where were we?
So your father had a lot of spiritual books on yoga lying around the house when you were growing up?
Yes, and medical books too. I used to read all his books on medicine, and I loved that stuff. But he took me to see a surgery once to see how I reacted. I'm not sure how old I was, maybe 13, 14. And so it was a thyroid surgery. So I got all dressed up, and so he took me to the room because he used to do anesthesiology besides his practice in pediatric.
Okay.
And I knew it wasn't for me because, all those clamps lying from the lady's neck, and it just too much. I couldn't, so I didn't pursue. He wanted me to be an instrumentalist for surgery because he said that I had a very good, when I passed something to somebody, it was very precise. He said I would do a very good instrumentalist, but it did not happen. So yeah, my father was, I had a very good childhood, very happy, no traumas. Always had everything I wanted to have. My parents were well-to-do. And later on, Hridayananda Goswami, he used to call my father Bhakta, father-in-law, Bhakta Soguru, because my father was really into studying Bhagavad-gita, and he chanted japa for 2 years, vegetarian, and then he had a heart attack because he didn't know how to eat vegetarian, what to do. So
your early experiences looking for spiritual life, I think you were telling me that you would lie in a hammock and you would just wonder about the purpose of life.
Right. Because we had this beautiful home on a lake. It was like a mansion. We had a tennis court, we had a swimming pool, we had the boathouse, and we had this gorgeous veranda. So we had 2 hammocks on the side. So that was my favorite spot. It was by a jumbo tree. It's a little fruit that tastes like rose petals. And so that was my spot for just wonder. So I had a lot of time to wonder as a teenager. I didn't have many chores and having to keep busy doing this and that. And so that's when, the mind just goes and looking for why are we here? What's the nature of life? Why, what the planets are hanging just out there. And so all these questions of that Sri Upanishad has all the answers.
We're going to get to that in a minute, that progression.
Right.
But you were saying there were a couple of other catalysts. There was the George Harrison album.
Yes.
There was the Hair musical, right?
The Hair musical was before the George Harrison. Yeah, the Hair musical, well, that was when the Hare Krishna mantra became popularized in that hippie atmosphere. And so I heard, but it didn't have an effect on me. And then George Harrison came, and I used to sing. It was part of my my upbringing was that I used to come back from school and just get the Beatles LP. They always had the words in them. Mm-hmm. So I used to just spend the whole afternoon just listening to music and singing the songs, and with a dictionary besides, because, English wasn't my first language. And so we used to learn English in school. French was my second language. It was part of my mother's family that we learned French.
So you had gotten a George Harrison album, and that was one of the first times that you, well, besides the Hair musical, that was the next time that you were exposed to Krishna.
Yes.
Because there was a picture inside of there.
Yeah. There was that beautiful LP that had the My Sweet Lord in it, and it had an insert. It was a double page, like a folded page. One was Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot, and the other one was a beautiful Om sign. So I had those on my door, my bedroom door. And we used to go, I had a group of friends that we were into reading Bhagavad-gita, but we read the Bhagavad-gita that was available, and I couldn't understand a thing, really. The Bhagavad-gita never made much sense to me. But we were reading it. It was just, being stoned and reading Bhagavad-gita. No problem with that. We had like waterfalls and a property. It was called the Sun Valley. We got a property, all the kids, all the youth kind of lived together in a place and had bonfires and all that. It was very nice.
There was a macrobiotic restaurant and a meeting with a certain person, I think, who...
Right. So by then, I was in college, and so I left the house in the morning. But I always did, before I left to go to university, I used to spend an hour doing. It's because I was a macrobiotic. And doing is a self-massaging tool that just wakes up your chakras, it wakes up your chi, your prana. And so that was just part of my life. And then I met this one fella that came just traveling around. He came for lunch because I used to go to lunch every day it was close to my university, my classes. And he was telling me that how those awesome people in São Paulo, they sing in the street with instruments, very colorful. And this guy used to play the flute and said, yeah, they let me play the flute with them. It's really cool. Let's go see them. So we were having lunch one day. At night, we just caught a bus and went to see them in a different city. And so when I got to the temple in the morning, because we got the overnight bus, the devotees were having breakfast. So the ladies were sitting in the front yard, in the front porch, and the guys were sitting on the left in the yard. And so I came with my long Moroccan dress, with some Moroccan beads on my head, with the hair long. So they thought I was a devotee from another temple. And so they all start paying obeisances. And I was like quite surprised. I said, this is a very good place, That's a nice reception. And so immediately they got me a plate of prasadam. And 2 hours later, I had a sari on. I was reading Shri Upanishad, and I had this one devotee telling me all the rules and regulations. She was following me around and telling me how to bathe, how to clean the bathroom, what to do after you wake up and roll your sleeping bag, and how to, to eat with your right hand and all that stuff. She was giving me the whole. And So when I joined, Mahavira was in India, in Mayapur. He'll tell you the story. It's a funny story. So he was there with Srila Prabhupada. And so when he came back, I was expecting, because there was some pictures of Mahavira, of Hridayananda, they used to call him Maharaj. So Maharaj and Mahavira, for me, all sounded the same. So I was expecting the face of Hridayananda to come in, and then Mahavira showed up. Fine, so Mahavira came, it was a big kirtan, he's coming, it was the whole very lively party mode. And so immediately, the devotees had taken my car. I brought my car when I joined. I went to get my car, came in, because when I came to visit the temple, I never went back home. I just stayed. That was my first day that I joined. So I went home to pick up my car. The two devotees went with me. So when I brought the car, they took my key away from me. They painted the BBT's logo in the doors. And so I never saw my car again. So Mahavira came back, right? First thing he did, gave me my car back, my keys, and I was to take the girls in Sankirtan, traveling Sankirtan. So he engaged me properly so I wouldn't fry out. Because I had a keychain that I had bought on layaway. It was a silver keychain, beautiful. It disappeared. So, there's little things that end up frying people if too many things happen. But no, he engaged me properly. And then he had brought Gauri deities. And he engaged me shopping for Gauri in São Paulo. So I used to take my car, go shopping, buy all the stuff that they needed to make clothes and decorate the altar. And so I was very well engaged. And
so this is, 1976?
1976. Yeah, that was probably before Gaur Purnima, because Gaur Purnima was when we installed the deities. So everything happened so fast.
You told me you joined in February.
Yeah, the 2nd of February.
By April, which is right after Gaur Purnima, you had met Mahavira already and you were getting together.
Yeah, Mahavira came back just before Gaur Purnima. So, and we went to celebrate Gaur Purnima in Rio at a public area, beautiful park. So before, there was this one fella that Vrajabhumi is it's a beautiful place in the mountains in Rio. So this fella, he had the owner. At the time, he didn't have the Vrajabhumi yet. He had a penthouse in Copacabana. He was a rich lawyer, but real devoted, really nice guy. So he was sponsoring the feast. So we were up on his penthouse cooking feast, like huge buckets of everything. And so, Gaur Purnima. But to go from São Paulo to Rio, the devotees had two Volkswagen vans, painted turquoise blue with a big colorful Hare Krishna on the side. So Mahavira was driving one with the man. I was driving the other with the women. And we were going, and he said that what called his attention was that I was following behind him just the whole time. There was no mistake there. because, driving was something that came naturally for me because where I grew up. So that interested his...
You met and you were married within 2 months, or?
In those 2 months, we did that, and we drove the van, so he got interested with that. And then he heard that I came from a good family. And so then he called me in his office. There was this one devotee with him. And so the devotee, he came to and said, all the women need to get married. And we want you to get married. And I was like, forget it. I don't want to get married. I'm fine. I was like saying, no, because I was hearing the guy was on the phone with a lawyer asking questions about an American marrying a Brazilian. What do they need? And I said, because the guy that brought me to the temple first time, he was an American. But I didn't want to marry him. And we just met in a restaurant and we're talking. So I was saying, no. And then after a while, I just got tired and I said, so who do you want me to marry? And he said, it's me. Do you accept? I think I turned purple. I turned really red and hot. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, with you, I accept. Because he was a representative of Prabhupada at the time. And so immediately...
Was he already like a regional secretary at that time? Or I don't know what they called it back then?
Yeah, he was in charge of everything. I know that he was never administrator or anything. He just came to give classes But Mahavira did all the administration of the thing, so, yeah.
So you joined in February, you got married in April.
Yes.
And then you started traveling right practically immediately, because Srila Prabhupada was traveling around the world and you were trying to catch up with him, I think.
It was it wasn't on purpose. It was by, Krishna's arrangement.
So you had planned to go to India and you ended up at Bhaktivedanta Manor?
Yeah, we went to Bhaktivedanta Manor first. That was the end of July, August, and Prabhupada had just left, like when we arrived there, Prabhupada had left like the day before. So the whole temple was like buzzing. And my service there was to clean Prabhupada's quarters. So I had to be in his quarters, in his bedroom, and so I got a very good, when I see pictures of Prabhupada there now, I know very well every corner of that place. And I also did garlands and vases for Radha Gokulananda.
And that's where you met Ruchira, I believe.
Yeah, Ruchira was there with Rukmini. Ruchira was always, because they live in a Brahmacharini ashram, so Ruchira was always like, Rukmini! Rukmini was all over the place. It was fun. It was a beautiful place, the Bhaktivedanta Manor. It was the first time that I saw apple trees. Because when I come from a tropical place.
And then you heard that Srila Prabhupada was coming to New Mayapur, so you made your way to France.
No. It was, because Jai Tirtha was in charge. And there was, so Mahavira was very good managing people. So he asked Mahavira's help to go to Germany. So we went to Germany. We stayed there for maybe a couple of weeks. And then we traveled by car to France, first to Paris. We stopped there at the temple, met Krishna and Parish Ishvar.
Right.
Yeah, gorgeous. And so then we went to New Mayapur because there was going to be a big initiation there. So when we got there were devotees from all over Europe. It was packed. So one of those buildings in the back, that was where we stayed. But the beautiful thing was that there was this one prasadam time that Srila Prabhupada was in his room, and his room facing the area where the devotees were having prasadam. Prasadam was under these millenars oak trees. They were like immense. And in my head, Chaturveda Shri Bhagavad Prasad, that pleases the spiritual masters to see the devotees eating prasad. And Prabhupada was just watching us from his window. And we were all in circles, just a bunch of circles, devotees eating prasadam together. That was beautiful. And we had in that same area was the initiation. It was Krishna Balaram's installation. Yeah, the temple was so packed, could hardly go in. There was so many people. Huh. Yeah, that was gorgeous.
So you were telling me how the initiation, there was a white cloth on the grass on the lawn.
Yes, the setup was beautiful. It was under these gorgeous oak trees, and they had these white cloth and with fruits and veggies, a beautiful setup with, how the French knows how to put out a show with beauty. There is a picture in the BTG. So the man, and then the man on one side, the women on this side, and then they brought Srila Prabhupada in a palanquin because he wasn't feeling well. Excuse me. And I didn't know how to say the 4 regulative principles in English. I just came back from Brazil. I knew English, my Beatles English.
Yeah.
No, not speaking. I knew the 4 regs, but in Portuguese. So when it was time for me to go in front of Prabhupada, they called me, and I went there, and I looked at Srila Prabhupada, very convinced, and I said, this one, that one, this one, and this one.
In Portuguese.
And I stopped, and I kept looking at him, right? Because I didn't realize that I was speaking a different language. Whatever. So he kept staring at me. And that took like a while. He was waiting for something. And then he looked to one side, looked to the other side to see if anybody understood. And then he looked at me. And the look that goes from this life to the past lives, and could see my soul, all my anarthas, everything. And then he nodded and said, okay, your name is Jaya Gauri, Devi Dasi. Yeah, that was and it was really nice because Prabhupada had to pay attention to me. And later on, when we were in Vrindavan, he asked Mahavira, what language does your wife speak? Yeah. And in New Mayapur, we went walking with Srila Prabhupada, so there were hundreds of devotees walking with Srila Prabhupada on the grounds. And then there was a place, they had a vyasa for him to sit. So I had my daughter with me. And and then it was kirtan and everybody, and then time for obeisances. So when everybody paid obeisance, she was finally able to see Prabhupada. And she was like, Mom, Prabhupada, it's Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looked at her and he laughed, and he had a good laugh with that. And the devotees were all saying afterwards, wow, she got the blessings. And because, to get the attention of Srila Prabhupada with so many devotees, it was special.
Then after New Mayapur, you ended up in Vrindavan that year.
Yeah,
November
we
for
went to
Kartik.
Barcelona for a few, because Bhagavan wanted to open a temple in Barcelona, so he asked Mahavira to look for a place. So there we go, Barcelona. So we were there just driving around looking for houses and seeing, and then from that we went to London, back to Bhaktivedanta Manor, and from there we went to Vrindavan. So we got to Vrindavan, we got to the Krishna Balaram temple. Srila Prabhupada, we were walking on the side of the temple to the left, and when we passed the door, there's a door, it's just a simple door. When I looked in, Srila Prabhupada was under the tamal tree, listening. Every day at 5, he used to go under there to listen to the translation in Hindi of his books. And so Srila Prabhupada was there. We didn't know we were going to see Srila Prabhupada there. We're just going back to Vrindavan because Prabhupada told Mahavira to come back to India because he was Canadian, didn't need a visa. And so then we went there, and Vrindavan was it was Kartik time. I didn't even know what Kartik was. I was a new devotee. And but Srila Prabhupada was there every day, so there was hardly anybody in Vrindavan then. So I got to really spend time just sitting and listening, being with him. And every morning, and I used to clean his yard, his backyard for his massage. I used to clean that every day, prepare his massage table. There was a little platform. I always put a flower there. And I used to take care of his tulsis. There was a fence made out of stone that had planters on top, and they planted tulsis. So I used to take care of those tulsis. And there was this time that I was taking care of the tulsis, and Srila Prabhupada was walking around the temple before, Guru Puja. And so every time that he walked by, I was pregnant. I used to duck so I would not be higher than him because he was short. And then he told Mahavira, one day I was there taking care of the tulsis, and he and Mahavira looking out the window at me. And he told Mahavira that this is the right way for ladies that they're pregnant, this very gentle work. They should not be doing heavy work. So doing work with tulsi was very good, and doing light stuff. And he also said that I was a good wife. He told Mahavira that. So Hridayananda says that I was certified by Prabhupada. He's always funny.
So that Kartik, you also got your second initiation there.
Yes. And Harisari always says in his book that it was, at that time, it was 76, people had to wait to get their second initiation. But for me, it was really quick. It was like 2 months, not even that. So I got my I didn't know all the procedures, right? So when I go there to go into Prabhupada's room, there were 2 girls already waiting, and they had banana leaves with fruit. And I said, oh, this is dakshin. We have to give something. I said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I didn't know anything. It's just... So they share with me 1 piece of banana with some fruit, so they share, and then they put me to the front to go first. So, yeah, we were called in, so I got in the room, and Arundhati was there talking to Srila Prabhupada about lunch or about prasadam, what he wanted for lunch. So they were talking, so I just stayed there, holding the thing. Imagine, I just got there. Okay. And then Srila Prabhupada he looked at me once he's done talking to her. He said, is that for me? He just kind of broke the ice. And I said, oh, yes, Srila Prabhupada, this is for you. And I put it on his desk, and he told me to sit. So he was here, I was sitting right here. And I had the paper he gave me the paper with the Gayatri mantra. So I was holding the paper, and his finger like this, just going right here on my face, his finger like this one, for each mantra, talking like that. And so I was in his aura, so it was so close. And, people, they're sensitive to aura, to energy and prana. I felt, and I could see the brilliance in his aura. It was so bright, and it was being in a very serene. It was very serene. It was something that I take with me forever. Being close to him like that. He wasn't just a normal person. It was a real avatar, a real somebody that came from a spiritual place, because it was fantastic. So there I got my Brahmin initiation.
And was Revati born there at that time?
Revati was born there. She was born February 24th, 1977. And she was born in Loy Bazaar. So I went, having contractions. I went on a rickshaw. I had Mohini Shakti with me. She was Harisori's first wife. She was my best friend. I had Shakti Mati. Shakti Mati is Turia's wife. He moved here. Shakti Mati and another girl with the bags that the midwife had told us to bring. I was having contraction, going through all the potholes in the rickshaw. But I was loving every moment of it, because it was adventure. And so between 2 shops, there was a space. So, and we go into this space, and there was this building. It was like a short building. It was just walls with stucco, with holes for windows and holes for doors. Just white stucco. And there was a table, obstetric table. No cloth, no sheets, nothing, just a metal. And there I was, having a baby, and it was that time, and the baby's coming. So I started screaming. I said, ah! And the midwife smacked me in my face and said, Bolo Hare Krishna, Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And the Krishna, she was born. And then she picks up the baby and puts the baby on the floor. And finishing of the placenta and all stuff. And she had asked us to bring an old sari. So, and then they put me in the macrame table, the bed, and I was lying there. It was very nice. Everything was very comfortable, believe it or not, because it was very bare, but it was fine. And and then she brings the baby. The baby's like naked coming. And then she get the sari. She start making clothes for the baby. She start ripping the clothes right there. And the diaper, and the this, and the that. Just wrapping the whole baby with an old sari. She was fantastic. She was and Revati was the third ISKCON devotee to be born in Vrindavan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had said that you had done some deity worship for Balaram before that.
I was doing some sewing.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was Shakti Mati. She's living here now. She was in charge of the sewing room, so I went there and she started showing me, because I had a little experience with sewing. So my first job was to make Balaram's pants. So that made me meditate on Balaram all the time, and I was just so in love. Just Balaram completely. It just knocked me on my feet. And so when Revati was born, when she had no name for 14 days. We used to call her Bridge Basi. And so we went on, it was time for the festival, so we went to Radhakund in a taxi with devotees from Canada. And so we got to the Revati Balaram temple. And the Revati Balaram temple, so when I heard the name Revati, I said, oh, that's it. So that's how she got named.
And then we're now in 77, so Revati's born. How soon after that do you leave Vrindavan, and where do you go next?
Yeah, she was just a few months old, like a couple months old, when we left Vrindavan to go to Rio. We stayed in Rio for a bit. I was living in a Brahmacharini ashram with her. And then
And you still had
there
your
was
other daughter, right?
Huh?
Your other daughter was with you as well?
No. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. Yes, Yada is like the goddess of the rivers.
Okay.
Is Iara, Yada. Yeah, so we went to Rio, and then, we went to the house in Brasilia with 3 other couples, and to start a temple there, but it didn't pan out. So we went to Belo Horizonte, and there was a temple there. So we went and got the temple going. I was in charge of the Boga run, and I used to go to the wholesale fruits and vegetable yard to bring. So I always came back with a car so full that it was like low on the back. And we did a lot of prasadam distribution there. And I was also pujari at Gornitai. And Revati was 6 months. Or maybe a little more, because my father came to visit us there, and he spent Janmashtami with us in the Belo Horizonte temple, and he fasted all day, he feasted at midnight, he did the whole thing. So I have pictures of him holding Rave and at the temple.
We didn't really talk about it so much earlier. Maybe we can go back to it. How did your parents react when you joined the Hare Krishna movement? Because coming from a well-to-do family, You know, how did your mom and dad take it?
My mom wasn't very happy at all because she had other plans for me. My father was curious. My father was always, everybody loved my father because he was so good, like he was such a generous person. Like if he was a doctor, right? So he worked in a day. And when he came home, there was a lineup of people that couldn't pay. You know, the workers and this and that. He used to treat everybody, give them medicine, every. I don't say it every day, but it was often, very often. So my father was curious, and so much so that he wanted, you know, a Bhagavad-gita. He started studying Bhagavad-gita. His Bhagavad-gita, I wish I had it. When they moved, somehow it was misplaced. It was all underlined and written on the side. It was like complete study.
Yeah, he was really seriously studying it.
Yeah, he was really seriously studying. Thank you. And
trying to figure out what his daughter was getting herself into, basically. Like,
right.
What is this that she's getting her life into?
Yeah, and after that, he chanted japa for 2 years. He became a vegetarian. So, yeah, he was really into it. But my mother only read Bhagavad-gita after my father passed away. When she came to visit me, I gave her Bhagavad-gita because the Bhagavad-gita, the version that she had, the later version, I edited. So that was my way to say, Mom, you know, I edited this. You need to...
Right, you helped with the Portuguese translation, the editing of it or something.
Yeah, because to give Prabhupada's voice to the translation, it needed some editing.
So we were in 1977. Your father came to visit in South
Florida. Yeah. So we were in Belo Horizonte.
Sorry, you went back to Rio, and you were living in the Brahmachari
And from
ashram.
there, we went to São Paulo, I think, wasn't it? No, when I first landed, we were in Rio, and then we went to São Paulo. And the temple was a house in the neighborhood called Liberdade, like freedom. And so the house next door, there was some very nice old lady with her daughter, and they had an apartment on top of the garage. So I rented that. So we were like next door to the temple. And at the time, Mahavira was running there was a bunch of devotee ladies, and he was organizing them to raise money to buy Nova Gokula. And he made pamphlets. He coordinated the whole thing. Everything was very nicely presented. And and then Nando was born in São Paulo. Nando was, I remember there was a Mangalartik was on, and I went to the temple. I said, I'm having contractions. I went to Mangalartik, and so I told the girls, all right, so let's, so there was this one girl, Kamaduk, she was a great friend, and so we went to the hospital, and like really quick, he was born. And Mahavira was happy. It was a boy. And, so then 2 months later, I moved to Nova Gokula. Nova Gokula was very bare minimum. There was no electricity. And, you know, Mahavira had constructed like a guest house kind of thing. It was a long house with a veranda. And there were some bathrooms in the end. And so each devotee had, a room. So I moved there first. And then I moved to the back on the other side of the river with the kids, we all had like a very bare houses. The houses were just like no insulation or drywall. It was just the studs, the roof, and the kitchen was just like a little stove, and there were about 4 of these little houses that they had built for families. And so I had the kids there. It was pretty austere.
You were saying that you used to bathe Nando in the river in the morning.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's
So
how.
you had no running water or electricity or anything in the
Well,
early days.
yeah, it was better to because there were some washrooms, but I prefer to bathe them in the river. Why not? Pure water coming from the mountain.
Yeah. That temple is surrounded by a national park or something like that.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes, and now the devotees have got a whole area of Navagokula. There is a bird sanctuary. They work with the government.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a beautiful area. Beautiful. It's up high on the mountains. The sky is like the stars are so close, and it's so it's so dark at night because there's no city, and the stars are so close. It's a really beautiful experience of nature. And yeah, so we built a house after my father, gave us the money to build a house. He was always giving us money. Oh, it's for everything. We need this. Okay. We need that. Okay. So he was always good like that. And so, yeah, we built a house there, and we're next door to the temple, so I could hear the bells for the pujari waking the deities in the morning. It was just heavenly. And I had service. My service was make the Mongol sweets from the milk from our cows, and also the 4 o'clock offering, the cake.
And was that where you were helping translate the Prabhupada
Yes.
Lilamrita?
Lilamrita had just come out, and so I was translating the Prabhupada Lilamrita. So I was absorbed in a good way. It was a beautiful time. Yeah.
And then you left for a brief while, and then we went back to Navagokula, and trying to remember what that was and why.
Where was the, yeah.
Brazil,
we
you had to set
went-
up the restaurant, right?
Yeah, because Nanda was little, by the kids. And then we left Navagokula and went to Brasilia. Now, I don't know why we left. I don't know, Mahavira wanted to leave, and for whatever
You'd
reason.
been there for 3 years practically at that point, and you were ready to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always like wanting to expand and go. And so we went to Brasilia, and we opened a restaurant called The Vegetarian, and it was a great success. It was very, very popular. Lots of people every day of the week, and we used to serve takeout for the offices. And Antradon and Gorvani, they were our drivers for delivering the prasadam. And they live in Alachua now.
Yeah.
So we had a Sunday feast in our house every Sunday, and we were friends also with a couple. They were Indians that later on they arranged for our work at the embassy.
Yeah.
So they used to come and help cook and learn to make chapatis and all that. And our house was very small, but it was packed. And we had fire yagyas at my father, because our house, my parents' house, was in a hill that ended on a lake. it was rocks, lots of rocks. So their house by the lake, and there was a house near the edge here. That's where my father built a house for the caretaker. So, and then we took that house. So we were living there and having our Sunday feasts there.
Okay.
It was very nice. We had gornitais, little gornitais that I brought from India, but we had a ceremony, initiation ceremony, down by the tennis court, my parents' place, so Aunt Dawn, I think, was initiated there, and it was beautiful.
And I guess it was good for your parents to have the grandkids close by for those 2 years that you were there.
Oh, yeah, they helped so much. Yeah. It was good for them. It was good for me, too. And, my parents always had maids, and so I had, people to clean. I had people to wash my clothes, and, yeah.
And then Rita Ananda Maharaj shows up
And
changes
he
your
shows
life
up.
again.
He came to visit. He came to visit, and then he stayed for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, I guess his power of convincing, he convinced Mahavira to go back to Navagokula because the BBT was going under. And so, Prabhupada comes first. So, and then we sold the restaurant to a devotee. And he continued for many years. And so we moved back to Navagokula. Maybe that's when we built the house. Yeah, that's when we built the house because we had money from the restaurant. And then, in his job as a regional secretary, Ridananda's area was also Miami. So Miami needed some help. Because Mahavira was always the one to come and he could make money appear. So he went, and then, he got with this Jewish guy, rich Jewish guy, and the Jewish guy loved Mahavira, and he wanted to renovate the temple. So he paid for all new windows for that whole hotel, the hotel on Miami Beach. And so we were there in Miami Beach. Nanda was going up and down in the elevators, driving Pundarik crazy. It was so funny. And I had Nanda turned 5 over there, so imagine, very active, coming from a farm. He had lots of space. Yeah. And so I had the nursery school there to keep the kids engaged. And I used to take all the Sankirtan ladies' kids, plus Prajapati's kids, Srimad Bhagavatam, he was my right-hand man. He was 12 then.
Okay.
And it was great. We used to take the kids to the zoo, to the park, to the beach, to just keep them busy, and so their parents work. And Chakradar, that lives here in Alachua, he was the cook in Miami. And every day he used to give me a stack of chapatis for the children. Never made any, he was super generous, super nice guy. He's a super nice guy. And so made our lives, doable, because I had all these kids. What am I going to feed them, right? It's a temple set situation. Yeah. And it was really nice.
When was Jai born? Was he already
Jay?
there?
Jay was born in 1980 in Brasilia.
Okay, so you had at this point Nando, you had Jay, you had Revati.
I had Revati, Nando, and
Miami.
Jay.
Yeah.
All in Miami in the room.
And they're starting to get to school age. Gurukul.
Yes, it was that time. Now there was 5, Revati was 6, going on 7, and well, Jay was small, but it was time to think about Gurukula for the kids, education. And we had no money. We never worked outside for money. We always bartered things, just exchange
And the
services.
Gurukulas at that time were charging tuition fees, to clarify that.
Yes. And so we said, well, we can't work here because we don't have a green card. Mahavira Canadian, I'm Brazilian. So we're going to go to Canada. So we end up in Canada. We landed at his parents' house, and then I told him, "Get me out of here." So and then we moved to this house from a
Life member.
A life member. A life member had this nice 3-story house, and so Yasodanandana Maharaj, used to be Maharaj, lived in the first floor. Somebody else lived in the second floor, and the third floor was us. And then the second floor person vacated, and we moved to both floors. It was really nice because it was close to the temple. It was all, Bhakti Marg Swami used to come and knock on the door early in the morning. And, I used to walk to the temple to deliver my garlands. It was first time seeing snow and living,
I can
in the
imagine
snow.
it was cold for you coming from a warm climate.
Yeah,
spent
but I had
winters
good
there.
coat. I had one of those long, puffy coats all the way down with boots with inside that had a little fur. But I didn't know how to layer. I learned how to layer later. So that was in Toronto. We make friends with Prahana and Vishwakarma and Krishna Das and Purnamasi. We were all our group of friends. Kids the same age. Then we move on to
You started a farm?
Warkworth.
Right. Outside.
Because there was a group of devotees, Canadian families. They would say, let's go to the country and make a community. Say, okay, let's do it. So we went, and we purchased a farm. We purchased a 100-acre farm. It had like 25 acres of maple trees. And so by when we get there, they're starting to disperse because it wasn't an affluent area. It was a great area, but it wasn't, I guess, they couldn't make a living there. And because Mahavira, that's when Mahavira was starting to sell paintings, him and Satyajit, the other family that was there.
Satyajit, who's now at the Krishna House.
He's with Krishna House now. He used to be married to this girl from Venezuela, and he had 4 children. They live in Vancouver, I think. Now, he had teeth then. And he was quite handsome. And our kids used to play together, and so that was Warkworth, and Ugresh is a black-skinned devotee, and Manoharini. There were the other. So there were only 3 couples left, 3 families left in there, in Warkworth. So we stayed there for a little bit, for a while. Then we sold our farm really well, and we purchased a house in a city where Mahavira's parents live, in Ancaster. And Ugresh also went to Ancaster. And then Mahavira went into real estate. So did Ugresh. Ugresh, he was here not long ago. He comes, he drives a RV.
Okay.
And so in Canada. He had this new wife. She's a lovely lady. And he used to do hot air balloons.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. Now he's living in Baja. Yeah. So that was great. Our kids were all friends, and we used to gather at my house.
And how did you educate the children? Were you homeschooling at the time? Because they were
No,
now
we
school
put them
age.
in a public school
Okay.
system in Canada. Yeah, kids were doing quite well. The public school system there is good, and we met a lot of nice people. Nando's best friend, his mother was a macrobiotic, so we kind of got to be friends. But she was really into macrobiotic, to use the food to heal. And it was like November, December, very cold in Canada, and Nando was playing hockey, and he got bronchitis. So before it developed into pneumonia or anything, she showed me how to use those white radish and cut it small and cook it in some water with the soy sauce and give the kid that to eat. Nando cured himself completely. He was really good taking medicine because it doesn't taste great, but it's medicine.
Yeah.
And so we used to just have gathering of devotees because we were away from the temple. So when we gather devotees, we always get it together and share prasadam and kirtan and like that. So that was our just maintaining a certain level of Krishna consciousness.
Timeline-wise, it was around 85 or so when you left Miami to move to Canada. Was that around the time? And then you left Canada in 1990. So how many years were you there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
what made you decide to get up and leave all over again from that small 16-acre farm?
From my point of view, it was too cold. I didn't like the cold. I didn't like the cold. There was this last summer that we stayed there. We had 2 weeks of being barefoot outside, barefoot with warmth. 2 weeks of heat from the whole year. And Mahavira, Mahavira had this real estate business, and he had purchased many houses with some other devotee friends. And so we were renting all these houses, and we had our big farmhouse. We had a 16-acre farm. And so it was Krishna's arrangement, because we sold our house in our yard sale. And we sold our house really well. We sold the business. We moved to Brazil, and the real estate crashed in Canada.
So just before the crash.
Just before the crash. So we got out at the right time. It was Krishna's arrangement. We went to Brazil. We landed in Vrajabhumi. Vrajabhumi is where that lawyer, the rich lawyer from the penthouse in Rio, he purchased this piece of land in mountains in Rio. And he went to Srila Prabhupada in New York, asked Prabhupada to give the name for the place. So Prabhupada said Vrajabhumi, so that's Vrajabhumi. And he was so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada. It was amazing. Great devotee. He had his wife and 2 kids, 2 little girls, 2 girls. And he had 2 sons from his first marriage that became devotees later on. So we landed in Rajabhumi. We stayed there. He gave us a little chalet. And
So you have 4 kids at this point. Hari, when did he come into the picture?
yes, just up to, yeah, I had 4 kids.
Was
5 kids.
Was Hari born in
I
Canada?
had 5 because Hari was born in Toronto
Mhm.
and Ram was born when we lived in Ancaster.
Okay.
Busy. I was very busy.
Busy being a mother, for one thing, taking care of
Yes.
the kids. Yeah.
Busy being a mother, busy being a housewife, keeping the kids. And, when I could, I was painting ducks in Warkworth.
That's right. You had told me about that. There was a neighbor who was making ducks out of polyresin or something. And you were painting.
Yeah. And I had never painted anything. But because Satyajit's wife was already painting, so she introduced me to him. And so I learned to do it. And so when I hand my ducks to him, he liked them so much, he wanted to pay me more.
Oh. It was a way of making an income while being at home, basically, because
Yes.
it was a nearby neighbor who
Yes.
was manufacturing these things.
Yes, we had a solarium in our farmhouse, the 100-acre farmhouse. Had a solarium, so there was plenty of light. Had some plants, and that's where I put my duck assembly line. Yeah. We used to have Yashodananda came to our house to do a fire yagya in the house. Yeah, it was quite lively. We had a group of devotees, so we didn't live in the temple and depending on the temple. We were devotees that lived outside, but we congregate and we had fun, worshiping Krishna.
So in 1990, you decided to move back. You went to Rajabhumi for a little bit.
Yes, so we went to Rajabhumi, but it didn't really work because the school there, the kids couldn't speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
So then we had to move back to Brasilia. We moved to Brasilia and stayed at my parents. And we were working. We found work because the school, the English school that had English, very expensive. So we had to find jobs to pay for the kids' schools. And but it was lovely because the kids had all their association was with all the top tier diplomats, because all the diplomats, so it was culture and lively, and it was a Baha'i school. The Baha'is are very open-minded in terms of worshiping. They're very nice people.
You found some work at the Indian Embassy, I believe. you told me.
Yes, and then with that Indian couple, they used to come and help make chapatis and all. They knew the ambassador, the Indian ambassador, so they arranged for Mahavira to get a job there as the commercial attaché. And I got a job there as a Portuguese teacher to them, so they could learn Portuguese while they're in the country. And so we worked there.
Teaching the Indian ambassador and his family, or just anybody at the embassy, the staff, the Indian staff that was working there.
Yeah, but because it was, I guess, the Indian ambassador loved Mahavira. And so we got invited to his house for lunch. We got invited to all the ceremonies, the get-togethers, and so I used to go in a sari. Mahavira, we used to dress like Mahavira. My sari was like burgundy. Mahavira had a burgundy tie, Yeah, so it was funny. But so we did it, like that. So it's how we run around the world. We make it. While we were in Brasilia at this time, working at the embassy, Mahavira met this one fella. They used to sell helicopters or something like that. Through the driver of the ambassador driver, somehow, they met. So this guy, he used to live closer to where my dad lives, kind of close. So he started inviting us, to gatherings. And so we used to go to gatherings. I said, let's go play cards together. Okay, let's go play cards. And I'll take a Bhagavad-gita. So I took a Bhagavad-gita and gave it as gift. This fella, he ended up being the head of the BBT. Because he is a son of an ambassador. And so he became, the head of BBT for many years. Yeah. So
never know what Krishna's plan is, behind the scenes, and who you meet and who you end up giving a book to, and then they join.
Yes.
And do amazing
and
service.
And he married that one girl. She used to work with Sariputta. She's an astrophysicist from Ireland. Yeah. They have 2 kids.
So you were there in Brasilia again.
So it was we were in
working at the
Brasilia.
embassy, 1990 to 92, because then Rita
Yes.
Nandamarj came again.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
It's like Narada Muni appearing in your life, saying, okay, time to move on, time to do something else.
Yeah, just leave everything and go. So then, because it was so we left, we came to Alachua in 92, December 92, we landed here. And, big family. Mahavira had come first, organized things, so we had a house to go to. And Premananda Gaur, he had his wife Sachi, and so they came driving 2 vans, right, with their kids. And so we had luggage. When I came to Alachua, I had 2 garbage cans, one with pots and one with blankets, and just little suitcase with minimum clothes. That's all we had. So we landed in this house in the neighborhood behind a Walmart. It was halfway to the preaching center, halfway to the temple. That's where he picked first to live.
Preaching center is what they called the Krishna house back then.
Yes.
So you arrived in Alachua, and you still didn't have your green card.
No.
Because you said you had applied for it back in Canada, and
right,
2 years later you're still waiting for it.
Yeah, we applied back in Canada, but it hasn't come out. And and when we came to Alachua, Ridananda said, you could have a job at Daylilies, Daylily discounters.
Right, the devotees were running a business growing daylilies in one of the fields at the temple. Yeah.
Right. Somehow it just didn't pan out. So, and then Mahavira was delivering newspapers.
Gainesville Sun?
Yeah?
The Gainesville Sun?
Yeah, the Gainesville Sun.
So many devotees still work there delivering newspapers.
Because, you didn't need a social security number. And and on Sundays I helped him. Yeah. And and then green cards arrived. He got a job, and so life became more stable. And
you were helping at the Vaishnava Academy, the girls' school.
Yes,
teaching there.
I used to teach at Lakshmi Muni's ashram in the Vaishnava Academy. I was a science teacher there, and I love the girls. The girls still, talk to me, and it's nice to see old students, and they always remember. I'm glad I had a good impression on them, because they were in the ashram, and it was so very strict. And when I did, there was one time I did the 4 regulative principles, and cleanliness, the pillars of, was cleanliness. So I taught them how to use wax to wax under their arms, to hygiene classes and, things like that were important for a girl to know, how to take care of their bodies and be clean and be, and it was fun.
92, 93, 94, 95, those were the years leading up to Prabhupada's centennial. There was a lot of activity, a lot of enthusiasm. Devotees were moving to Alachua from everywhere. And when you came, there probably was only like maybe 40, 50 families, and then gradually it started expanding.
Yeah, we had the little Gornitai in the little
Still the mobile home, yeah.
A little mobile home. So Gornitai was as close to you as it was quite nice. And remember Tamal Krishna came to visit, and he gave this wonderful class on the creation. And so after the class, we were like buzzing, saying, how can we get some more information about that? Because he was a very good storyteller. And he was talking about the creation as the womb of a mother, his description of the pulsation of the creation. It was like incredible. And so we were all in that little temple. It was just a little thing.
Devotees don't realize when they come to visit Alachua now how it all started, from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
In a little mobile home trailer, basically.
Yeah, a mobile home, small trailer.
Dushala and Manushrestha
it wasn't even a
here.
double wide.
Dushala and Manushrestha were interviewing here on last Saturday, and we were talking about the early history, because they moved to Alachua in 82, 10 years earlier, and there was nobody on the farm.
Right.
It was them and the crickets, basically.
Right, and they were lucky. They got to build their house in the farm temple property. Her and Mahamaya were able to build a house there.
And so then by the time you guys came in 92, there were already a few more families, but still, it wasn't anything like we have today.
Right.
And the big thing, I think, at the time was everybody was trying to figure out how are we going to build a proper temple. So we don't have to have this mobile home anymore, to create a real temple. I think your Mahavira was on the Krishna Community Center, KCF board, Krishna Community Fund board,
right.
Try to raise the money to build a temple.
Yes. And I used to bring the kids every morning to the temple, to Guru Puja. We used to chant japa in a car on the way here, the way to the temple. Take them to school. At first, they went to the day school.
What is now now it's called the Bhakti-yoga Academy. So
right.
The day school Gurukul, yeah.
Yes. And Govardhan was the principal. Govardhan, the German guy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was very good. Very, everything was very pakar. Yeah, you need that, And then it changed administration. They got a little unstructured. So
the kids went to public school
my
after
kids
that.
went to public school.
Where?
In Alachua.
The Alachua schools?
Mabane and all the public schools. I didn't like it, but what to do? There was not that many options, and
those were the days when I moved here in 2000. Some of them were still going, like they were teenagers by that time, and they were going to Santa Fe High School.
Yeah.
And the devotee soccer team.
Yes.
It was like half devotee kids,
Right.
and people were yelling, Govinda, Krishna, whatever,
Yes.
cheering them on.
Right, yeah. And like Jay, he was a tennis, he coached tennis.
Yeah, you were saying your kids were all into sports, so
they were all into sports, keeping them busy. So I was very busy driving them around to many practices.
Soccer mom.
Yeah, soccer mom in a van, driving the kids around. Very busy that way. Thank goodness for pressure cookers.
Nando was in a band for a while, wasn't he?
To
he
where?
was playing bass guitar in a band, wasn't he, Nando?
No, oh, yeah, he plays. Yeah, he plays. Yeah, Nando used to do the dramas. At Lakshman used to put on dramas every time. And we used to go to that ISKCON World Review house with Sarvasatya. We used to go there for practice. And so Nando was part of the drama. Yeah, it was quite nice. And Jay was always more of a quiet kid and very sober. He's more like my dad. He's like very even keeled.
Did the kids get to meet your parents as they got older? Were your parents still alive, or are they still?
Yeah, they got a lot of memories with my parents, which was very nice. Yeah, it was very nice.
It's good for the kids to get to experience their grandparents. You know?
Yes.
Sometimes as devotees we shelter our kids from their non-devotee grandparents, but
Right. Yeah, I find it's a sin, because, the grandparents are important. Yeah, we never discriminate too much, always a karmi or this, just you love everyone. You love them.
Yeah.
They all have their way of living. And if they like if they like us and they like our, who we are, they will be liking Krishna.
Yeah.
They will be favorable.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's okay to you're not going to be there like Srila Prabhupada says that, you give association, you don't take association, or you give association. And you're not intimate with people. They're not, with a higher consciousness. But you associate with them. You give yourself to them, give love. Gotta always promote loving relationships. And the way I find it's that for this new generation, just work on yourselves and work on being good people, people with good high morals and high values in life. That's what, Srila Prabhupada was wanting us to be.
Right.
That's how you become a Krishna devotee. How can you love God and you're abusing children, or you're stealing, you're living out of people, just cheating people, and it doesn't develop good morals, good practice. So it's important, just have honest jobs, make a living out of something honest, and Krishna will provide.
Speaking of honest jobs, you were teaching yoga for many years, and you
Yeah.
still are. And I want to kind of, how did you get started as a yoga teacher?
We used to have, there was this one teacher in a Gainesville Health and Fitness. That was 1994. When Hari was born in 1980, I started practicing yoga, just, for health. And then in 1994, I found a teacher that I really liked. And I was going 3 times a week to have classes with her. And I always go deeper into the practice. And then I start subbing for her classes. And little by little, I start teaching. And then she left, and then I got a job teaching. And it just developed that
14
way.
years you were there. 14 years, 2008 or something.
94. And I started teaching, I think it was 2004,
Yeah,
something like that. And yeah. And for 14 years I worked at the Gainesville Health and Fitness. I used to teach 7 classes or something like that.
And then you also taught at Rasatala's place here, the Ayurvedic
Oh,
retreat
yeah.
center.
But before, way before that,
Okay.
I taught at Govinda's restaurant.
All right, when we had the Govindas here in
Yeah.
Alachua. Yeah.
I started at Govinda's restaurant. I used to teach a 2-hour class there. It was quite nice. It was upstairs in one of the rooms upstairs, and Gaur Purnima used to come. Janava, Priya's mother, used to come. What's her name? Anyways, I forget her name. Forgive me. So we had a nice group of people, and I taught there until it closed, until it got closed up. Then at Rasatala's, I used to teach. I used to teach yoga there for free for the devotees, and only non-devotees paid. But it was.
And it would seem to me like yoga is a natural entrance point to introduce people to higher consciousness, spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, right?
Yeah, because the yogic principles are very much in line with a life in Sattva Guna. And so to start this kind of elevating your consciousness, you got to start somewhere where you have a mind that is not disturbed, so you can hear. So yoga promotes that state where you can hear. So I had a lot of workshops in my house during these years with quite a lot of ladies, like nurses and psychologists and doctors and people that, having their lives in Gainesville. They used to come to my workshops and learn about, I did being creative, like tapping with the chakras, and find ways to, introduce different modalities of healing. And
you said that there was a workshop you did on the 7th chakra, and it was all about devotional service, basically.
Right. So when we went through all the chakras, when we got to the final chakra, the 7th chakra, it was all about devotion, receiving, that energy, that love, that. So I have deities at my house, and so we were doing like kirtan, puja, stuff like that. It was so nice.
The yoga students,
Yeah. I used to do that often, like every 3 months I have a workshop. But the pandemic, I just stopped, and I haven't. I did one after the pandemic on Patanjali, but I haven't got together. Because I had surgery and I lost my voice. I used to give classes at the temple. I used to give often. And then I lost my voice. The last class I gave, I could hardly speak, so I said no more. And and I had to have surgery. I had a paralyzed vocal cord that happened. Leela Sukha, she told me about this thing at the college here in Gainesville, Santa Fe College. It was going to be a 5-day, 5 nights police of self-defense class. So I went to that. Every night it was like, hey, whoa, whoa. my voice just shot. It got totally shot. I lost my voice. Usually the voice comes back, but mine didn't. It became paralyzed completely. So 2 years go by. I had to stop teaching because I had no voice. And I was afraid of going to surgery. But and then I said, I have to. So I did. And now I can speak again. And
Bionic vocal cords or whatever they
I
put
know.
in there.
You know what they do? You know when they put something, a stent in your heart, the plastic material, whatever material they use is the same material. They just insert inside the vocal cord that's paralyzed, because the vocal cord is, it closes and opens. So mine was left open. So they just put something that maintains it in that position. So although I have just one that goes, but it can able to close.
Okay.
The body, material body.
But now, so concluding the yoga discussion, we're past the pandemic, and you've just opened a new yoga studio, your own studio for the first time.
Yes, for the first time. And it calls Yoga for All. And it's across the street from Pep Boys in Moles, across the street from Newberry Road, where TJ Maxx is, that area, west side of town. So it's...
Which freeway exit is that? I'm familiar with the I-75 freeway exits.
So if you exit I-75 on Newberry, and you exit and you go left, and you pass the entrance of TJ Maxx and Publix and Mother Earth. No, it's Earth Origins. Past that, and you make a U-turn. You make a U-turn to go into, there's a big AutoZone, Pep Boys. So you turn on that, and instead of Pep Boys on the left, we are the building on the right. It's it's the times that I have class. It's 9:30 in the morning and 11, Tuesday and Thursday. So there's not much of a traffic at that time, but that area can get really busy, but not in the morning like that. So yeah, do come. And we have beginners class at 9:30 to 10:30, and then 11 to 12:15 is more advanced class.
Yeah, my mother was a yoga teacher, so I've always had an affinity for the subject, because she basically joined through her yoga. One of her students gave her a used secondhand copy of one of Prabhupada's books.
Wow.
Because the father picked it up at a flea market. He gave it to his son, who was taking classes from my mother, and my son was looking at it going, does Bhakti-yoga? What is this, No yoga exercises in it. So he gave it to his teacher, my mother, and she read it, and she was like, oh, my God, this is what I've been looking for, like you kind of talked about when you started reading Prabhupada's books.
Yes. It's amazing how Prabhupada can connect. I guess you have to be ready to hear. And to have that oral reception. And nowadays, I have grandchildren. So I have a 6-year-old that's Jay's son. Lovely boy. Very smart. He talks like Mahavira. He talks very loud. Very loud voice. And so he lives in Clearwater. And I have Hari, lives in California, and he has a little 3-year-old, Nakoa Wolf. And Nandu, he lives here in Gainesville, organic farmer, and he has Anna. And Anna is a little darling of my life. Really, I love her. She's so lively and so joyful, and she's adorable. She's 2.5, so at that age, that is so nice. So
there's a whole new chapter of your life now, all the grandchildren, you know.
yes. My mother always said that being a grandparent is better than being a parent. Now I know why.
You don't change as many diapers, I take it.
Well, yeah, you don't have to be 24/7 with the kid, You just play with them and then give them back.
One thing that I was remembering I was reminded of that we had talked about over the phone in our pre-interview meeting. You had said that for 14 years or more, you were involved at the sewing department here in Alachua, sewing for the deities, and how that was a beautiful meditation for you.
Yes.
And it provided camaraderie that you didn't get in any other way.
Yes. It's beautiful. It was it's a little shed also. It was a little shed, a little room beside the president's office. Because when the temple moved, what used to be the temple became the sewing room.
Right. Okay.
And so we used to make outfits for the deities, go there twice a week, and just sew all day. There was because I raised parrots, and
you and
so,
Kirti-Raj both have an affinity for parrots.
Well, yeah, a lot of the parrots that Kirti-Raj has was given by me. So there was the second egg that I raised from my birds. I used to take him. It was like there's no feathers, just teeny little thing had to be fed So I used to take him in a basket to the sewing room, so I could feed him every so often, and just there. We always had music. I always brought some good CDs, and it was a great meditation. Because sewing with Shamapriya. Shamapriya Stoka Krishnas, and she's a lovely person. She's very kind, and she knew how to guide me, because she knew she sewed for Gornitai since Gornitai was installed.
Wow.
So all the tricks of sewing for deities, kids. So she showed me everything, and it was so nice. She's a wonderful devotee. Yeah, it was a very good times. And always Mahamaya always came in to do the hand sewing. She likes to only do hand sewing. So when it was time for hand sewing, call Mahamaya.
Putting the little beads on top of the embroidery.
The embroidery. We used to do outfits here. They were completely made in Alachua.
I miss those days, because now we just buy everything ready-made, and it's not the same.
Right.
You don't have the same devotion in it.
Right. Yeah. We used to have everybody in the community, everybody that liked to bead, everybody. We all have little packages all ready to take home with all the beads for that outfit. And yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, it was a great togetherness that we all participated doing the same service and together. Yeah, that's what you take in life, is those moments. You don't remember, petty things. You remember how it feels to be with devotees, and how it feels to work together without false ego, without all these weird ego exchanges. It was like, everybody worked towards the same goal. It was never like a conflict with egos or anything. I work with other yoga teachers. Yeah, there are ego conflicts, and I always have, I just lately, I told one of these teachers, I said, I am not going into an ego trip, ego fight with you. Just I'm not. It kind of deflates their, to bring it down. Because, you have to be a yoga teacher, you have to act like a yogi. You have to show by example. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, looking back at your life, there seems to be a constant theme of adventure.
Yeah.
Like one thing that you had mentioned to me was that, Revati had mentioned after you had been in Alachua for more than 4 years, it's like, what? We're not going to move somewhere else?
Isn't it time to us to move?
Because looking back at your life, it's like you're no more than 2 or 3 years in one place,
Right.
Going to the next place, starting a new temple, starting a restaurant, starting a farm community, and just Krishna kept sending you elsewhere,
Yeah.
And then now you've been here in Alachua for forever now, 94, so
Yeah.
that's an anniversary year, isn't it? 20 years or more? 30 years. 30 years.
More, yeah.
Woody, right? Yeah, it's 30
Got
years.
here 92.
All right, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
32 years. And
Yes.
I was just going to ask you, looking back at your life, what would be your advice and your hopes and wishes for the future generations, for the younger generations of Hare Krishna devotees,
Don't give up on chanting. Always find a way to chant. As many rounds as you can maintain daily. Stay always remembering that that's the main reason why Prabhupada wanted us to do. He wanted us to learn to love Krishna. And be kind to devotees. Be kind to everybody you meet. And Prabhupada always said that there's no place for envy in the Hare Krishna movement. You need to imbibe that, and
Right, there's no envy in the spiritual world, so we're trying to, create that here.
Here, yeah. Yeah, those values in life, just be a well-wisher of other people instead of, greedy over somebody else's possessions or life, something they have I don't have. It had to be beyond this mundane exchanges to be able to experience spirituality, spiritual world, Lord Chaitanya's magnificence. It's the most magnificent incarnation. Why? Because he was giving love of God freely. And we are supposed to be representatives of him.
Yeah.
So, acting, respecting people. I find that the personal, if you can, in your personal life, if you can maintain a certain standard of practice, of bettering yourself, never stop improving. That's what a transcendentalist is. Never, in your deathbed, you're going to want to get better at something, just prove your devotion, your service. So keeping that service attitude, that's what I think it's the most important thing, because your kids will learn about it. Will learn from seeing you doing it.
Yeah, you had mentioned that when the kids were growing up that they would be the ones offering the prasadam and doing everything, because you didn't always live near a temple, so you had a lot of that in your own home.
Yeah, yeah, they all knew how to. Although I had the mantra, because having 5 kids, I usually have my little altar. I have an altar, but I have a little altar Prabhupada above my stove. So as soon as I finish to cook, that's how the offering goes. I don't go and put on a little plate and take the altar. I had no time for that. It was busy. So that was, I always did it like that. So I always remind me of Jagannath Puri. They offer these big pots, So that's how I did. That's how I still do. So I had the mantra on there, so everybody could go and always offer. Used to take turns. He always. I liked my kids to do chores. So we lived in Canada, one day somebody cleaned the kitchen, they changed, their chores, and they always had to do something. Nando always cut the grass. It was his favorite chore.
He still likes to ride the lawnmower.
Yeah.
Ride the tractor now.
Yeah, right. He loves it. And, so, I find that working on your personal relationship with Guru and Krishna is the most important thing.
Thank you. Thank you for this interview and for taking the time. And I know we didn't really get to talk much about Mahavira, but maybe we'll have to have him do an interview with us about all of his side of all of the stories.
Yes. Yeah, he's a fun guy to talk to, and very jolly, and was always very enthusiastic about life, and made a lot of devotees. It was amazing. Like he's been working, a job here in Alachua in Gainesville, and for years, and so he hardly goes to the temple. But he travels a lot. There was his Janmashtami, last Janmashtami, he went to the temple, and he's just sat in this one place by the prasadam there, just sat, like tons of people coming to talk to him, devotees he made in Puerto Rico, because he traveled all down, the Caribbean, and it's just they're all here, and so he know everybody, all from devotees from old places, and he's fun. He's fun to be around.
One of my most cherished things to do is to actually do these interviews, not because I'm really shy, I don't like to be in front of the camera, but I love to hear the stories, and other people need to hear the stories, because when we go to the temple and we see 800 devotees at a festival, we don't realize who all these people are and all of the service they've done throughout their life, and very few people take the time to actually learn and find out. So, that gives me joy, is to bring these stories out and to talk to devotees like yourself and to just hear.
Thank you for allowing me to share my story. The story of a mother that joined the Hare Krishna movement, a girl that joined the Hare Krishna movement because she had a complete desire to have a guru. When I was 14, I had this dream, and I was in this place, and I looked around. It was like 360 degrees, and the dream made an impression. That was the only dream that I remember when I was a teenager. When I went to the Madana Mohan temple in Vrindavan, and I went behind the temple, there is a platform, and I went there. My dream. This was the place of my dream. So, yeah. So, we have a long way to go. We've been practicing many lifetimes, and we still have a ways to go. Got to keep the enthusiasm and the determination to be able to hear the holy name, to be able to, really practice. I find that yoga really helps because yoga raises the airs of the body and it keeps you with that evenness of quiet mind. So you're able to, there's not much disturbance in your chakras that takes your mind. So it's a good practice for a bhakti yogi as well. Prabhupada always said that, when he saw devotees, like other people doing headstands and devotees making fun, and Prabhupada said, no, this is good practice. It's good for you. Good for your physical body. You got to live in the body. Prabhupada said, health comes first, then your sadhana. So health comes first. Because if you don't have a healthy body, how are you going to practice? Yeah. Bhagavad-gita. Yeah. Krishna's kind. Very kind. Allow us to continue going. I'm very grateful for Mahavira, for, because he provided all these years, provided for a family of 5. I'm very grateful to him because he gave and still gives me the opportunity to keep my sadhana. I have, it's my morning program at my house with my Giriraj. We went, we have Giriraj since 2007. We went to India, and under Padmanabha Goswami, he gave us everything. He told us how to...
The Radharaman
Goswamis,
yeah.
Yeah, the Goswami there. He was very, very... He's the Govardhan Shila Guru kind of thing. He wrote a book. So under his guidance, we got Giriraj. So it was quite nice. It was a beautiful experience. Mahavira will tell you that story.
Thank you again. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, looking forward to get the interview with Mahavira.